I'm colorblind, I say apologetically whenever the opportunity presents itself. As a disclaimer for why I might mess up my colors at the mature age of 15. I've always been told that I was, by my parents, by my teachers, by my doctors. So that's what I tell everyone. But I often find myself wondering, am I really deficient in color vision? Or is peanut butter just green? It all started when I was 3.
இது என்னடா இந்த கலர் என்ன? அடுத்தது 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 இது என்னது? அடுத்தது 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 What's this? Yes! Smart boy!
I was good at stacking blocks. Extremely good, in fact. I could stack blocks of all shapes and sizes and clearly identify and group blocks by their shapes. When it came to color, though, I was all over the place. I would categorize yellow, green, and orange together and mix up colors all the time. My parents, fully confident that it was a skill issue, didn't pay much attention. A few months later, I started going to kindergarten, and my teacher pulled aside my parents to talk to them. Your son knows how to read, she said. My parents, still confident in my inaptitude, denied the claim. My teacher said that when asked to color, I would read the labels instead of looking at the crayons to differentiate the different colors. But my parents were confused. Why didn't I just look at the crayons? They took me to a doctor, and soon there it was, color blindness. I was colorblind. No one bothered asking me whether I was unhappy being colorblind or not. I just was, and I had no idea what it meant. There are 3 questions that people never fail to ask me when I tell them that I'm colorblind. What color is this? What colors can't you see? And how do you see the world? The first question seems pretty easy. Blue, 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 and blue. Yellow, khaki, gray, green, blue, and brown. Or is it? Is the second circle blue or pink? Is the fourth one light green or khaki? Is khaki just green? Is the 7th one beige? Is the 11th one gray? Should I say what color I think it is or what color I truly see it as? Why do I have 2 different answers? I think it's best to start answering these questions from the bottom. How do I see the world? How, indeed. Functions distinguishing or recognizing colors can be divided into 4 categories. Comparison is the easiest to do. You do not need language background on what each color is called, nor do you need cultural background on what each color means. Connotative tasks assign meaning to certain color, such as stop for red, and often require some cultural background. Oftentimes, colorblind individuals use context, texture, and shape clues to guess the connotation of colors. And connotative tasks are typically easier to perform than comparative ones. Denotative color tasks require naming colors, therefore relying a lot on language. This may be difficult even for those with normal vision, and certain brain injuries can also lead to difficulties with denotative color tasks. This is usually the hardest task for colorblind people to perform. Aesthetic color tasks are very subjective and rely more on the perception and the interpretation of color rather than the specific ability to see color in a certain way. Because color comparison is so straightforward and unambiguous, it is often used to test for and detect color blindness. Ishihara tests like this one utilize subtle differences in color. I, of course, have no idea what that one says. My perception of color is a warped transformation of what is considered normal. You can think of it as the color wheel becoming weird and distorted. Colors that look similar to you will look different to me, and colors that look different to you will look similar to me. This meant that painting was always a nightmare for me. Initially, I used labels to tell the color. The problem was the labels named colors that normal people saw. I saw tree trunks as green, and so I would use a green color pencil, but that would turn out to be an entirely different green. I saw ocean water as a brownish red, but that looked pretty weird too. So I stopped using labels and tried to mimic the colors that I saw. I tried using the colors that I thought the picture should have, like blue for water. But crayon manufacturers are weird. They usually have 5 or 6 copies of blue. I always just pick one at random, so sometimes I ended up with a purple sky. 10 years ago, I walked into my first grade classroom, anticipating a productive day learning math and English. To my dismay, my teacher told me to pull out a notebook and start coloring. I put my foot down. I don't like coloring, I said. She asked me to do a pencil sketch instead, and that gave me an idea. From then on, I didn't color. I only did pencil shading, and that was definitely because of my preference and had absolutely nothing to do with the fact that color was inexplicably confusing to me. Recently, though, I was working on the set for a theatrical production here at Deerfield. I was assigned to paint something. Bad decision. And despite strong efforts, I messed up a color and had to paint the piece all over again. I had no favorite color as a child. They all look the same, and yet they all look different. How can green be a favorite color if all greens look vastly different? But I do tend to like bright colors. Yellow, pink, orange. I guess anything that could have a neon version. They pop out and I don't confuse them with other colors. I have 3 neon yellow suitcases and I've never had problems with baggage claim. I wear an iconic neon orange jacket and it's easy to spot, and as a bonus, it suits my personality. Color comparison affects my daily life in a lot of surprising ways. Tomatoes and green chili are not so different in color, but very different in taste. I don't eat bananas because there's a 50% chance that I bite into one and it's raw. Any colorblind person will tell you that maps and diagrams to us feel like torture chambers. That's how I see that. It's extremely hard for me to tell changes in skin tone, which sounds like a perk because I can't tell when people are blushing. But I also can't tell when I get rashes or sunburns, and I used to think that sunscreen and moisturizers were a waste of money. Then I realized that I was getting plenty of rashes, I just wasn't seeing them. Denotative color tasks are interesting. Because my perception of color is so warped, normal vision people find it amusing how I see the world. Brown blood, green sand, and yellow leaves? I must be crazy. Our school recently had an event where we were supposed to wear pink. And I remember calling my mom and complaining that I had nothing pink to wear. She goes, and I kid you not, you have 4 pink shirts. I saw one of them as blue, one of them as red, one of them as gray, and one of them as white. I feel like school events are the root cause of my suffering. For Spirit Week, the girls' volleyball team dressed up as Oompa Loompas from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. We were sitting in English class and my friend starts complaining about how irritating her wig is. Here's the thing. I had no idea she was wearing a wig. So I asked her, why are you wearing a wig? Isn't this the same as your natural hair color? Her jaw drops, she stares at me, and she says, my hair isn't green. That probably gives you a good answer to the third question. What about the second one? What colors can't I see? What does that mean? How can I not see a color? Well, we see colors using both our eyes and our brain, and there are certain colors that my brain can't see. Your eyes give your brain 3 types of signals for each color you see, and your brain processes all 3 to detect what color something is. They are the L, M, and S signals. Each one is tuned to a specific wavelength, peaking at around red, green, and blue respectively. My L cone, however, is defective and responds to a curve that is more representative of the M cone than the L cone. I mix up green and yellow because green light triggers more of my red cone than for normal people, and so I see green as yellow, which is a mix of green and red light. Meanwhile, yellow triggers less of my red cone than for normal people, and so I see yellow as green. Hence, I mix up the 2. In general, anywhere on the graph where the slope of my red curve is less than the slope of the normal red curve, colors look similar and I mix them up. Anywhere the slope of my red curve is steeper, I differentiate colors better than normal vision people. I see dark reds as black or brown because I can't detect enough red light in them. I mix up orange and brown with green. Purple, magenta, violet, and indigo all appear as different shades of blue because they're all just mixes of blue light and red light. Finally, there's a particular cyan where my red cones get triggered more than for normal people. So I see it as white, which is just a mix of all red, green, and blue light. This just looks like grayscale to me. As a child, I was very upset about being colorblind. Who wouldn't be? My friends teased me, I had teachers who wouldn't understand. Everyone told me that I was colorblind, but I had no idea what that meant. I need 20 minutes to explain it to all of you. How is a 7-year-old going to understand all this color science? My dad pulled me aside one day and he said he wanted to tell me a story. He told me about a lion, a ferocious lion, the best hunter ever. But he was colorblind. He wasn't partially colorblind like me. He was dichromatic. Red and green looked exactly the same. He didn't get distracted by a tiger's bright stripes or a peacock's lovely feathers or a bird's colorful body. All he focused on was his prey, which he could see. It took me a while, but eventually I was convinced. If lions can be colorblind, why shouldn't I? It wasn't just lions. Many mammals, including some primates, are red-green colorblind. Colorblindness may have some evolutionary advantages in animals. I can, for one, differentiate shades of green very well. Colorblind individuals can see through camouflage so well that colorblind soldiers were recruited to fight in World War II. A ton of colorblind people, including myself, have also reported being able to see significantly better in low light conditions than normal vision people, which seems like an extremely cool perk to me. That wasn't what I took away from my father's story, though. That day, he made me feel special. He made me realize that being colorblind didn't mean that I was weak or had a disorder. I may see the world differently, but who defines right? How do we know for a fact that all of us see the world in the same way? Your red doesn't have to be my red. Well, mine probably isn't, but no one needs to see the same color to call it the same. John Dalton was colorblind. The world-famous chemist was the first person to discover colorblindness. Seems kind of crazy when you think about it. We tend to think of chemistry as all these bubbling solutions of various colors, but he was perfectly fine, wasn't he? He performed tens of hundreds of experiments with his students, writing down how everyone saw different objects. He compiled it all and published a book titled The Extraordinary Facts Relating to the Vision of Colors. That's what he saw it as, extraordinary. Today, I talk to many distressed parents of colorblind children. I tell them that it's not a curse, but a gift. When Dalton published his findings, 2 out of his 25 students self-diagnosed themselves as being colorblind. That is the current prevalence of congenital red-green colorblindness in males, 8%. It's much less common in females because it's a recessive gene on the X chromosome, but 8% is still a lot. I'm bad at estimation, but there's probably a couple of you who are colorblind. If you didn't understand my talk, that's likely why. September 6th, the birthday of John Dalton, is celebrated every year as Colorblind Awareness Day. I agree that we need to be aware of colorblindness, yes, but we also need to celebrate it. Vincent van Gogh is suspected to have been a proton like myself. Maybe that's why his paintings attracted me as a child. I could stare at Starry Night for hours and still find it miraculous. I don't like using the scientific name for colorblindness, color vision deficiency. I don't see it as a deficiency. Yes, I'm technically able to see less colors than a normal vision person, but that doesn't make it a deficiency. There are people known as tetrachromats who are carriers of the colorblindness gene and can technically see more colors than a normal vision person. Would that make them normal and the rest of the world deficient? You can't define the majority as being normal. My father says he wishes he could see like me, with green trees and yellow leaves and purple skies and brown oceans. I think it's fun to mix up colors, or to have to ask someone what color their hair is. So, we've arrived at our first question. Every single person, without doubt, never fails to ask me, what color is this? So, what color is it? It's what color you see it as. It's what color you want it to be. To me, what I see is normal. And if I had to choose, I would choose to be born colorblind again. Why? Because peanut butter is green. Thank you.